Hello, good evening, and welcome to Prog Chattery 777. We've been talking about Yes, and we've made it to the year 1977 with the release of Going for the One. This album marks the end of a long string of great Roger Dean album covers. For a start, Hypnosis did the album cover on this one. I don't really like it that much. It's got a naked man with some cheap graphics and a couple of buildings that are in LA. Not the best album cover in the world. But more importantly, this album marks the return of Rick Wakeman back into the band. He had left after Tales from Topographic Oceans. He was replaced by Patrick Moraz, who had contributed to and influenced the band quite a bit on the previous album, Relayer. They went into a real fusion-y, kind of jazzy direction. Wakeman came back for this one, so on this album we have the return of the Topographic Oceans lineup. So we've got John Anderson on vocals, Steve Howe on guitar, Rick Wakeman on keyboards, Alan White on the drums, and of course Chris Squire on the bass. And musically, this album is it's a drastic simplification of what they had been doing. You could say it's kind of a return to Fragile or the Yes album kind of stuff. I don't know if I quite agree with that. Certainly not Fragile. There's no individual band bits on this album. And the Yes album, it doesn't really compare to the Yes album either. But it is it's a simplified version of what had gone on before. And it's definitely more, it's looking, they were thinking commercially around this time, I think. But that's not a bad thing. It's not necessarily a commercial album, but it is certainly more accessible than some of the stuff that we had on, say, Topographic Oceans or Relayer or what have you. For all in all, it's a very good collection of songs. One of which I think is worthy of being an absolute Yes classic. And the other ones, there's one song in here I actually really don't like, to be totally honest with you. But we'll talk about that in a minute. Or maybe we'll talk about it right now. Yeah, let's just talk about the songs right now. The album opens with, of course, side one. And side one opens with the title track, Going for the One. And right away, you can notice that this is a very different thing than, say, Relayer. It kind of starts out with this with the slide guitar. It has a very American kind of influence, and it's got this boogie woogie boom to goon to goon to goon to goon, which is, again, it's quite unlike Yes, but it's still very identifiably Yes. And we get the song is great. It does have those there's some great Steve Howe guitar licks that kind of pop up in those opening verses. It's got a great hook in the chorus, very melodic. And then the big middle section has that kind of trademark John Anderson, that kind of singing style, that syncopated da-da, 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 da-da. And that's all quite good, all signature Yes stuff. I think it's definitely a well-loved song amongst fans. I assume that because it's on most compilations, I think. And yeah, it's a good song. And like I said, it's nothing like anything they had done in the last few years. And that's right, this was released in 1977. Relayer was 74, I think. So there's quite a gap, actually. There's a 3-year gap between albums. And I'm sure that would have influenced. I'm sure that would have influenced, how this album was put together. Like I said, it is a very different mentality than, Close to the Edge or Topographic Oceans or Relayer. Track 2 of side 1 is Turn of the Century, and this is a great song. I think it speaks of the maturity of this album. It's a very mature album. They kind of grown up, and they weren't as interested in doing the side-long epics and that. But yeah, Turn of the Century is really nice. It's just a very acoustic. It's low key. Obviously, the title track is quite high energy, so it's nice to have a nice stretch of soothing tranquility. And yeah, it's quite good. It's about 8 minutes long. So I mean, it is kind of in that that classic Yes period of extended songs and extended song structures and such. But you know, they were very, very good at that. You know, obviously, an album like Topographic Oceans is easily criticized because you know they didn't need to stretch those songs out that long. But on the whole, Yes is very good at creating you know, songs with lots of changes and you know, mood shifts and stuff like that. They're very good at making songs like that. And Turn of the Century is a great example of it. It's kind of like progressive folk, I guess you could call it. Really, it's not. You know, it doesn't get in your face or rock, but you know, it's quite pleasant and lots of fine contributions, some classic Steve Howe acoustic work, so that's always a plus. We get to track 3, which closes off side 1. Now, this is the song that I've kind of got a problem with. I'm really not a fan of Parallels. It's a Chris Squire song. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that are big fans of it, but I don't know. There's just something about it. I think it's not so much the bass line. I think the bass line has a bit of a genericness to it. You know, ba da 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 da. You know, I know it's a catchy hook and whatnot, but it's a little bit, like I said, it's a bit generic. It's a bit obvious almost. But the thing that really bugs me about the song is actually Rick Wakeman's organ. He's got that church organ just, and it's right. It's so piercing, and then you know that combined with John Anderson's voice. You know, I love John Anderson's voice, but you know, let's face it, he's a very high singer. So that combined with the organ sound, it just gets grating, and there really isn't any change in dynamics for the song. You know, it's about 5 minutes. It's not that it's a super long song, but it just stays at this kind of grating tempo or this grating volume level, and yeah, I'm just not a huge fan of it. But what do I know? I know there's a lot of people that are big fans. So hey, what do I know, right? So the album we flip over, and the second side is quite interesting. We have almost a side-long suite, but it's the side-long suite's only 15 minutes, and it opens with a little song called "Wondrous Stories," John Anderson piece. And it's quite lovely, you know. This is probably, you know, or I could make comparisons to say the Yes album, or maybe even some of those earlier albums, which you know I'm less familiar with. But yeah, it's a pleasant little song. It's I would call it classic Yes. Yeah, why not? Let's say it's essential. Wondrous Stories, great melody. Yeah, it's certainly John Anderson's kind of a thing. Lush and you know, tranquil. There's tranquility to the softer songs on this album. Other parts of it certainly rock. And Wondrous Stories is only a couple of minutes. Like I said, it only really serves as like an intro, wind up into Awaken, which is you could call it's the epic. It's definitely the epic. You could call it a side-long piece, but like I said, it's not quite the length of a full side. So. Yeah, it's 15 minutes, and it's perfect. I would say it's one of the best extended epics they ever did, actually. You know, there's a trifecta of 3 phenomenal extended pieces of work that Yes did, and I say that's Close to the Edge, the title track, Gates of Delirium, and Awaken. It's just really good. It opens with that great bit of Rick Wakeman, some of that distinctive classically influenced piano, which is fantastic. And we get the main stanza, the main verse, which again it comes at the very end, so it's all wound up nicely. But the big thing at the beginning is that riff, the riff that comes in. It's manic. It's got the great urgency, and it rocks. You know, it has what, for example, Topographic Oceans lacks. You know, it really is in your face, and it stays that way for a while. There's some great Anderson melodies, just, you know, not necessarily the lyric part, but, you know, just the, it's fantastic. And especially with all the heaviness that's going on, you know, behind them. And, you know, that it goes through a few variations, and it you know, it winds its way through different sections. It maintains quite a heavy state, though, until we get to the great build-up bit. We've got some, you know, a nice little bit of xylophone there. and that's just a nice long extended build up, which winds into what I think must be one of John Anderson's finest moments. Before the little build up part with the percussion. It has that where the way that Anderson sings, he kind of goes over the bar a little bit. It's almost this rambling, chaotic style that he has, I guess. It's difficult to pin down, but at the end of the build-up, when there's the big repeat, for those of you who know the song, if you're watching this, I assume you do. After the big build-up, when it gets back, when the vocals come back in, and why don't I just look at the lyrics and try and imitate it? Sadly, I don't have the lyrics. I don't think. Gosh. Oh no, I do. Master of images, master of light, songs can last. That whole section. God, that took me a long time to get out. The point is, I think that's one of John Anderson's great moments with Yes. It's fantastic. The song, like I said, the song winds its way back to that opening sequence, and that concludes the album. There's some great playing by the whole band. Steve Howe has some great guitar bits, particularly in the heavy bit at the front, at the beginning of the song. And I love at the very end too. After it repeats that opening verse, and Howe gives us just like a nice little bluesy lick that just kind of winds the album up, and it's just the perfect little capper. So yeah, Awaken is really, really good, and it's certainly worth the price of admission for this album. And on the whole, this is a really, really, fantastic album. It's not on the same level as Relayer or Close to the Edge or Fragile even. But it does have a really solid set of songs. It's got the rocking energy, which I think is essential to the Yes sound. There's a lot of the folky stuff, so we get a lot of those dynamics, and like I said, it has one of the best epics that they ever did with Awaken. So yeah, the other song I got a problem with, like I said, is Parallels, and I might just be crazy. I think it's a great song. Sure, it's probably a great song. I'm just not a fan. So yeah, there you go. That's Going for the One. It's interesting. Released right in the midst of the whole punk thing, and apparently the album did quite well. I'm not sure exactly what the chart positions were or anything, but there you go. Oh, I'll just show you the album cover really quick before I wrap up. The whole thing. Said I'm not too big a fan. Just the part should have done this at the very beginning. We got a picture of a tree. Isn't that nice? Lovely tree. And then there's a shot of the band. Oh, and they're nice sweaters, standing by a lake. What appears to be a lake. Yeah, the Roger Dean album covers are much better. Far, far superior. So there you go. There it is. Going for the One by Yes. Stay tuned for the next album, which we're going to do, which is Tomato? Tomato. I don't know. Someone correct me whenever I do that. So thank you very much for watching. Send me a like, subscribe, throw me a comment or two, and we will see you all in the future. Thank you very much for watching, folks. See you next time.